This week we are talking to Roger Gutierrez. Roger is one of my Chicago guys. Chicago guys. He is parts and service director for Mazda store and the Chevrolet store. Oversees both of them. He's just coming off of record months at those stores, which is fantastic. Well done. And he intrigues me because a while ago, I don't know if you know this, but every once in a while I go out to a saloon. All right. So a little while ago, Roger and I were at a saloon along with a couple of the other guys, and we were talking, and I found out that Roger really does a great job with attracting technicians and building relationships. And how he does it is consistency and relationship building with the educational system around him. And now a lot of us say we work with schools, but Roger really works with schools and really does a good job with it. Then he hires the guys and he offers them career paths. So everybody says when we're in the business here, oh, you got to grow your own, you got to grow your own. Yeah, everybody, we get that. Okay, we understand that. How about some specific and actionable ideas on how to grow your own? I mean, that's something, right? Instead of everybody just saying, just grow it. So Roger is going to help us out with some of these and with some of these aspects here. Dan Shine, welcome aboard from Motor City. Appreciate it. But Roger, talk to us. Tell us a little bit about who you are for some of the folks on here that don't know. And by the way, anybody that wants to jump in, please, we want this to be a very active program. Raise your hand. We'll get to you. We want to hear from you, no matter what role you're in, whether you're a vendor, a general manager, service guy, or even a parts guy. I'm
Even a
okay
parts
with,
guy.
I'm, all right. If you're a parts guy, text me first, okay, before you talk. All right. Hey, Roger, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
Happy
morning.
to be here. A little background on me. I've been in this business now 24 years this January. So, and in this area, I've been in the business. Started off as a technician, moved up to advisor, then the nighttime service manager at a Toyota store, and then moved into a regular service manager, moved all the way up to now where I'm a fixed ops director. It feels like I've been doing the same thing for 24 years, but that's just the title changes. But things definitely have been changing in the business because I remember we could just put out an ad and we'd have a line of applicants to be a technician at our stores. It's not like that anymore. We're either stealing them from each other or we're trying to go on their websites and look them up on Facebook and then send them Facebook messages, try to get these techs out of those stores to join us. But I ran into the situation where we had to start building our own because I'm in a western suburb of Chicago, so the amount of people that wanted to do this as a job was a little bit more challenging. I started getting involved with schools. Actually started with my dealer principal handed me a set of keys and goes, here, go drive this truck to the parade at a local high school. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I started, doing that for all the different assemblies and events,
What
turnabout,
parade was it?
homecoming.
Oh, I thought it might have been a different parade they have here
No,
in
no,
Chicago. Very big one.
no, I don't go to those.
Okay.
Um, and so so I go and I do this, and I met the principal, and I'm talking to her, and she's telling me that the school has an auto program, and introduces me to the auto shop teacher. After we did this with all the kids, and I stayed after till like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. She was showing me the shop and just letting me know all the stuff that he needs that my shop throws away on a regular basis. Tires that show, different wear patterns, abnormal wear on the outside, overpressure, under pressure, sidewall blowouts, things that he can use as teachable items for his students. So he and I started, helping each other out with that. And I'm just sending them here. We got this tire has a nail too close to the sidewall for us to repair. Here, this rim is bent. It won't balance, things like that. And then he introduced me to the other auto shop managers. And then from there, I started showing up to their career days and talking to the students and letting them know the big difference between them being at school and them being working for us. It's not all, your mom can't call in for you, if you don't feel like coming in. So that's something that was a big wake up call for a lot of these guys.
So, Roger, with your with with you talking to these techs or these teachers and stuff, I'm sure in that conversation they talked about how what the youth are looking for right now, right? And again, yeah, I mean, you've been involved with the schools for how long?
4 years.
4 years, man. That's about how long Ray has been not allowed to go by schools, actually. Okay.
It's a little longer, actually. It's going up to 7 now.
Is it? Okay. But anyways, for that time, for 4 years now, so you've had a lot of opportunity to interact with these teachers. What's the number one thing the teachers say that the students are looking for now?
Not necessarily what they're looking for, but what they need is just
Fair enough.
a stronger structure. Because from what the teachers say, that the schools are kind of lax on that. They give them kind of a bumpers to kind of stay between. But once they get out into the real world, they all have problems and struggle because it's not the same. They can't come in late. They can't just call in. They can't not do the job. And then they're wondering why they're getting fired or why they're getting written up and things like that. So that's something all the teachers really, want someone like me to speak about, is how different it is when they get out of school and how important it is to maintain those responsibilities.
Okay. And how do you do tours of your facilities and such?
Yes, yeah, for teachers and for the students. The students in auto shop classes, they'll come by the store and I'll walk them through the shop. Um, and then the teachers too, so they can see what the different dealerships have. And then that way new teachers can kind of see, what a dealership actually has. And some of these shops in the districts in Elgin have better equipment than we do. So they're just like, they're in shock because they're like, man, we're getting these new tire machines, and these shops that we work at, we still got a one from 1981, a tire machine, you know.
How are you attracting people with an 81 tire machine?
Oh, because I'm selling the sizzle, not the steak, you know. Um, I work very hard to make sure I'm building the relationship with these guys before they even come look at the shop, you know.
So what in your experience now, tell me about how you're interacting with these young folks and what what's your spiel? How do you just said you're selling them the sizzle. What's the sizzle?
The sizzle is someone they would want to work for.
The sizzle my drizzle.
Yeah, it's someone that they would want to work for. I mean, I got Jason, our service manager at our Mazda store. He'll come with me to Lincoln Tech, to UTI, and we show up there with the C8. And then we bring my BDC manager, who is also, an extroverted person, and we're literally hanging out with these people differently than everyone else. Everyone else is handing them a business card, be like, hey, we offer insurance, 401k, come work for us, and here's an application, come see us. And you're just like, yeah, cool, 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 But me, it's like I'm throwing water bottles at people and they're like, hey, you any good at this? And they're like, yeah, I'm pretty good at this or that. I'm like, sure you are. What phase are you in? Oh, I'm in this phase. And then, I'm talking about when last time I went to UTI. And they're like, oh, I'm learning in this class. Okay, what's the hardest part about it? Well, this and this. I'm like, all right, well, get the hang of this because you're going to need this when you get into a shop. Now I start opening the conversation towards what, excuse me, to be at a dealer and to be working with us, And then they ask me who I am. They'll ask who Jason is, and we start telling them, well, we're the guys you'll be working for. All of a sudden, we have a crowd of people around us because we're managing this crowd, and then all the other GMs and HR people that go for these larger auto groups are just staring at us. They start revving up these cars, and trying to get attention from these dudes, and we're just there having fun, and then we're the same people at these career fairs and open houses that we are at our stores. And then that really is what maintains the dynamic. Now that word starts spreading that these dudes that were at these career fairs, they're actually really cool. And then they start referring other people. So that's how we've been able to maintain that consistency.
All right. So the career fairs, you say you roll in a C8 or something like that. How much of an impact does that make? Because these kids still have that passion, right? They still
For
have the
sure.
desire to
Yeah.
work on cars, unlike us crusty bastards here
Yeah,
who
they still
look at something with four wheels and just oof.
Yeah, they still like cars. So when you bring something like that, you know, for the high schools, I'll take something over to their they have auto shows every quarter, little car shows at the high schools. They do fundraisers, so I'll bring something over there that we got on the lot. I brought over, a Camaro, a Miata, things like that. Jason's involved too with the Miata Car Club of Chicago. So, we deal with those people, and just being there doing things that are involved with these people, with what they're doing,
How much action do you get out of the car clubs?
Not a lot of action, but we'll invite them to different events, and then they'll be they'll be telling us that Biggers Mazda invited us over here, just getting our name out there that we're involved with these career fairs and bringing these different cars on.
If anybody in the room here has had a success with car clubs, let me know. Our former service manager, actually, Eric, was very involved in some of the Subaru car clubs, and he did a pretty good job of getting them in as customers as well, but trying to attract the talent there. So Roger, you basically, and check me if I'm wrong here, but you approach these guys, as you're not in a suit, you're not that guy, right?
Yeah.
You're just there hanging out, getting to know them. You're a regular person, and you start to talk with them, and they get interested in you. They want to make sure that that you're the real deal, so they see some sincerity there. Then they're sitting in front of you during an interview. All right. Now they're in the store. What's your next step?
Well, in the store is the part that it's actually more important, because now I wrote the check and now I got to cash it, right? So I have a layout at the GM store with what their career path would be with us, and the career path isn't based on time; it's based on training. General Motors has 13 technical certifications. So if they're a graduate of, let's say, UTI or Lincoln Tech or something like that, then I'll start them at $18 an hour. Right? And each of these certifications will grant them another $1 an hour added to their hourly pay. Once they're done with that training certification, then we can talk about them staying on for a while as hourly, and then moving them on to book time, and then moving them out by time into a book time position. Now, while they're on board with us, after they've gotten 5 of these certifications, I pair them up with the journeyman. Right now, out of my 6 hourly people, I got 3 guys that are paired up with journeymen. I move their racks, I move their toolboxes, I put them next to these guys. These guys now are in the trenches with this line tech, and they're learning everything that they're learning. They're doing everything that they're doing.
How are you paying those guys?
The journeymen, I'm not paying them anything different. They're just getting a helper to help them with their work, whether it be them road testing the car, bringing the cars in, cleaning up their racks, is the benefit they get. Of course, too, if whatever they work that they do, the journeyman takes responsibility, but with that, he gets booked for it.
Okay, and then the young kids, I'm getting into the weeds here for accounting, because there's some, everybody out there has to answer for a financial statement is going to have a conversation about this, but
For sure.
when you have those charges, because you're not paying these guys, you're just paying these kids basically hourly, and they are getting thrown into your unapplied labor on the bottom line, right?
That's a fact. There's no, I mean, I'm not trying to,
you're not hiding the weenie, right?
Yeah, that's it. I'm leaning into it. The owner, the VP, they know who these kids are. They are okay with them doing this, as long as they're learning and they're producing here. They're in their uniforms. They don't want anything that makes the store look bad, because everybody knows we're sticking our necks out to get these guys up and running and going.
See, I think
Joe.
Yeah, Mike, what's going on, man? How are you, bud?
Good morning.
Good morning.
As a newlywed,
Oh, boy.
I can tell you playing hide the weenie is a good thing.
Yeah, but she's got to find it. That's the challenge. But good job, Michael. Roger. So Jesus, fucking Titan. All right. So I mean that's key, right? If everybody understands that you have a training program in effect here, I mean that's what you're doing. You're training the next generation. Then some of that unapplied is going to be forgiven, right? But you have to have buy-in all around to put something together like this, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm assuming that you've had some successes with this. to prove that this training system works. Tell us about a few of your successes.
Oh, for sure. I got a kid who graduated ECC, Elgin Community College. I met him in 2020 when I started this whole thing at a high school career fair. I met him, and then I met him again while he was going to ECC, and he actually started working for me as a porter part-time while he's training to be a technician. He graduated ECC, and now 2 years in, he's done all the training I've asked him to do, and now he just got certified to do the preliminary work for C8s, right? So the owner gets a new C8 every 6 months. So now he got a new C8. The guy who normally does all the work on those on vacation, I was able to have somebody to be able to do the new car PDI and all the accessories because this kid was certified. And the owner was like, "Oh, Axel's the one doing it." I'm like, "Yeah, he's the guy we've been developing." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So this kid took over, on something like this, without any hesitation. And everybody knew who he was. Everybody was like, awesome. It wasn't like, oh, you're gonna give it to that kid, and all of a sudden there, you get that whole, tingle down your back because you don't know what he's gonna mess up. But this kid's already done all the training. He's just waiting for the opportunity. So now this kid's been working with me for 3.5 years, and he's kind of itching to be a journeyman. I'm like, no problem, big guy. Let's put you book time. He goes, whoa, 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 take it easy. You know, and it's really the environment we're building because now everyone who's like, oh, how come he's making more money than me? My guy, you guys are all on the same pay plan. You guys are all on the same training regimen. I don't care if I pay all of you guys $30 an hour. You guys do the training, I'll do my part.
And
And
now in your career path, do you have financial benchmarks or like financial tiers printed up that they're going to hit?
Yes, well, just in the initial one, they can get all the way up to 28 or $27 an hour, hourly if they complete the 13 technical sections for General Motors.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
After that, it develops based on their experience and their time frame.
Got it. Okay.
You know,
Okay. So training takes place, and then you have more of a subjective experience, performance based, that sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Ryan, good morning. Hope you're doing well.
Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, bud.
Just like Roger saying, I have a very similar program in house also, and I got eight techs I think right now that are running with helpers and booking the same hours. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. That of course, you have to have buy-in, right, with the unapplied and understanding and so forth. But biggest way is really to measure that performance of how they were doing, prior, and the hours that the group was turning beforehand, and what they're actually, turning now as a team, and really going with that and helping them understand that. But I think biggest with it too is, when you get in that position, you start looking at applied, and you don't have a GM or an owner that has buy-in, then that's tunnel vision, right? And I think the biggest thing is, making sure that those mid-level guys also have vision and how they can get paid more too, right? By hour bonus or, so forth, to keep them obviously motivated as well. And I think probably at some point with that, you're going to have to, at least, my vision, you are going to have to pack the techs a little bit with that, just because you are obviously putting two guys on there. So, when you got a lot of pay plans paid off gross and so forth, I mean, there has to be somewhat of a, participation, I think, on all ends to understand it. But again, that's got to have the big vision for everybody to be in suit with, not just, oh, we're putting a guy on here and the shop eats everything and they just take it on the chin,
Yeah, I think understanding that vision is crucial, because all too often you see a younger technician go with a mentor type person, and then that younger technician doesn't learn anything. All he does is become that guy's bitch, right? And I hate to say it like that, but it's true. So you got to make sure you pair them correctly. You got to have that growth mentality and that overall overarching vision for the shop. And everybody in the shop needs to understand that, from the owner down to from the owner to the advisors to the techs. Everybody has to be on the same page with that. I think that's crucial. Thanks for chiming in, Ryan. Hey, Ray Hernandez, go ahead. And then I'm going to want to hear from some techs too, because we got a lot of techs on this call. I want to hear from your point. Is going to schools and attracting technicians a good thing? How did anybody do that with you? And I know that somebody chimed in about community involvement and that sort of thing. And Sean Butler, man, am I glad to see you, my man. Thank you for joining us. Ray Hernandez, go ahead.
Hey, Roger, two questions for you. I thought I heard you say $28 for the hourly.
Yeah.
That's your max. That's
Yeah.
awesome. What's the delta between your hourly tech and your top paid master tech?
$41 an hour is the top. The book time grid starts at 41.
Yeah, you got a grid, an escalator in there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our diesel guys make 45 for their grid to start.
So when you say you got an escalator, you got a production tiered bonus, like so it's starts at 41, can raise from there.
Yeah. Every 5 hours, it increases $1 a book hour.
Okay, so your warlords are 46, 48.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you track the production of your hourlies if you're not flagging them?
Well, not flagging the apprentices, the other hourly, but they're still getting hours to be booked for them to do. It's just expected that the journeyman helps them out with. There's some recalls and things like that that they'll do that they get booked on, that the journeyman helps them out with.
Okay, so it's not a complete everything you touch goes to the journeyman.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So
you could monitor that by the performance based of what that tech was doing solo prior for
for
6
sure.
to 8 months running. So it's not a hard number to capture. And then all of a sudden you got a journeyman and a mid-level guy who was doing, call it 60 hours or 65 hours, separated. And then all of a sudden you put them together and they're performing 85 hours. It's grabbing, you're getting traction.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can definitely monitor and track it that way for sure.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the setup. I'm just trying to figure the production side. So even if you flag the hourly and pay those hours to your mentor, I don't have a problem with that. I'm just trying to figure out how you're tracking it.
And something about the accounting I forgot to mention is that the unapplied for these kids that are with a journeyman, it's actually being put to training on the dock.
Well, that's a huge difference.
And then not just
Yeah,
unapplied.
that's a big difference. And I think I got a little bit of participation too, is that on the journeyman, they're now participating in, depending on which one, but some will be 10% or 15% of some of ours to offset and, kick back on the guys that are especially starting to get a good mid-level guy that's ready to go on and so forth. And it's putting big money in their pocket.
Yeah, I at one point in time designed a pretty significant program that I actually never got buy-in for to do just that. Ryan, is a percentage, and that percentage, the percentage of booked hours was greater for the apprentice as time went on, right? So as he's assuming more responsibility, the journeyman's less active in there, and that eventually works to a split. It was a pretty good program. I wish I could have rolled it.
Well, and to your point though, I mean, like to coin what Titan was saying before, whether you put it as unapplied labor or you stick it down below the line from a training perspective, that's just playing hide the weenie, right? It's still an expense. It's just a matter of where you take
well,
it.
but here it's an expense that you're tracking. You're not ignoring it, and everybody sees it. So I mean, kudos. You're right. Wherever.
It's an expense, but at the end of the day, what you're looking at as an expense, you're not looking at the big picture. What are you gaining too? What is the gross off of it, right? What's the big picture off of it? How much more are you producing?
Well, I would say
So
a
now,
company that moves it to training is definitely looking at the big picture.
Yeah, it's accounting, right? I mean, it's whether or not you account for it here or there. We've been doing more and more where we're flagging the technician a dollar amount above and beyond what that flat rate hour tech pays. So for example, if he's at 28 and he flags, 30 hours, 20 hours, whatever it is, we'll pay the journeyman technician a VIG on the hours that person produces. And then some stores have done this to kind of see where their business is tracking instead of getting a big unapplied hit is we'll up the costing of that hourly tech by whatever that we're paying the journeyman tech. So if I'm paying him $5 an hour, I'll cost that $28 an hour tech at 33 and that'll wash my unapplied. So that'll just kind of help me track the business if you're deciding to put it above the line.
Correct, Ray.
Mr. Hill,
Yes, good morning, everybody.
good morning.
Sean, you're an inspiration to us all. What you and your family just continue to inspire us, and we certainly have you in our prayers. And you just keep fighting the good fight, brother. If you need anything, I'm sure you can reach out to any one of us. But what I wanted to find out, what I wanted to ask you, Roger, was with these new people that are coming in, and they're working in different areas. Or do they? Do they work in different areas of the shop, and they come in one way thinking one thing because they're young and eager and hungry, and they actually latch on to something else they didn't even know was part of the overall what's going on, like a trim person or something like that? And do they find their niche? Do you help them find that niche, that what excites them and motivates them and gets them moving, or do they just do one thing and go towards master tech or whatever the case may be? That was my question.
I try to move them around, and vary the work that they get initially. But I can tell you a lot of these guys, I start them off as porters. And I tell them they got to be there for at least 30 days. And if they make it on time, they have good attitudes, then I'll move them into the shop. They can bring their toolboxes, we'll keep them at the shop. And that just, gets more buy-in from them, because now they're aware how much work a porter actually has to do. And then they get moved into the shop. Now, I also base it on the relationship they have with the technicians. There's people are oil and water sometimes, so I don't pair those guys up. But if I see two guys that are, they get along, I'll ask the journeyman. I'm like, hey, would you want to take this kid under your wing? And then if I got buy-in from the journeyman tech, then I don't really ask the apprentice. I'm like, hey, you're moving your box over by this guy, and you're going to work with him. I moved one apprentice who graduated out of UTI to work with our trans technician. This guy, he really wasn't good with, trim pieces per se. He was like a bull in a china shop. He kept breaking door panels and things like that. So he's working with the trans guy, and he's taken off. This kid he punches out and stays late. I'm like, what are you doing here? He goes, oh, Perry wanted me to finish, this valve body for him.
That's how Roger keeps his unapplied down, by the way.
Yeah. I send them home. I don't, I appreciate their passion, but I don't like, I'm like, because I tell them, like, I don't want to, pay out overtime if we can avoid it. And then these kids will just be like, okay, fine, I'll punch out and I'll just finish. I'm like, no, you don't got to do that. We'll do it.
Wait, hold on. We're not asking for that, buddy. But
Yeah,
but how cool is it that they want to do that?
absolutely.
I mean, what a culture you're inspiring there. And the fact that you're saying, no, don't do that, makes them probably wants to make them do it even more.
For sure. My thing is, you work your hours, and then I want you to go home and enjoy your non-working time, because if you don't enjoy your out of work time, you definitely won't enjoy your time at work. So I push them to go make sure they go to lunch. I make sure they're out of here on time. If they call in sick a day, they don't want to use a sick day, I'll let them, work their day off instead of, using up a sick day. That's something I've seen has been very successful for me there.
I was dealing with a gentleman at the stores I was at. I was dealing with he was with the school districts, and actually he was with CATA, Chicago Automotive Trade Association, and he worked with the school districts, and twice a year he would get various high schools to come in, and they would do a tour of the shop, and they go through all the stores and everything like that. And he would reach out to me. Now, this guy was, he was a bigwig with the CATA. And so there's another avenue to get in front of these folks. Go, see if your local chapter of NADA, or however you want to handle it, see if they can do that. See if they have a program like that. Because the people he introduced, and we would have, Steve, check me if I'm wrong here, but we would have probably, 25 kids come through the shop, and we'd give them a tour. And then, and these kids loved it. They were all over the Subaru engines and everything. I mean, it was nuts. When we had that old Bronco in there, they were loving on that. And these guys, they really got into it. And I've hired several people out of that program, and started them in Express and kept them going. And then, that's one avenue. And then we had another avenue where, again, my guy Eric really did a great job with this. He reached out to the high schools. Somehow he got connected with the high school, one guy from the high school, and I was able to glom a couple of people out of their automotive tech program. Steve Kill is one of them. We started them off in Express and then grew them. And Roger, I'll be honest with you, we weren't as organized as you are with the written program and everything like that. So, I mean, I can't imagine the success you've had with that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really been successful because everybody knows what the job is and what it takes to succeed. You know, everybody knows what the goal is. You know, and it's funny to see because you'll see, you know, loop techs arguing over like, dude, I did fucking 6 cars today. You did only 4. What are you doing? You know, and it's just
Yeah,
funny
where that don't leave that there.
competition culture amongst themselves build up because I'm not going around being like you did, you know, you did 6 and you only did 4. What's going on? You know, these guys are doing it themselves, so it kind of manages itself.
No, that's a big deal. Now, Roger, what is your cadence of meetings with these guys, evaluations of these guys, your one-on-ones, what does that look like? Because again, selling the sizzle, get them all in there.
It's actually that's I feel like is my main responsibility. One-on-ones almost every day. You know, I walk the shop at the bottom of every hour and I meet up with a different technician, ask them how they're doing, you know. And you know, you could tell when people are having, you know, problems. I got a couple of techs that have newborn babies, you know, so those guys I'm not expecting them to be running off the walls, you know, but I'm checking in on them to make sure I can reduce any work-related stress that I can. You know, advisors that haven't called customers or parts that need to get picked up that haven't gotten there.
But
You know,
what I guess what I'm asking is for these new kids, in your program, do you have, like a monthly review or do you, with him, with I'm sorry, him or her, with that technician and their mentor person, those sort of things?
yeah, with each of those technicians at the end of every month, we go through their numbers because we use X time and we can see what was declined. I also measure very much is their videos, how many video multi-point inspections they did. You know, now the number can be skewed depending on how many pre-delivery inspections they do, but I hold them accountable to make sure it's above 85% at Chevy. You know, Jason will tell you here on our Mazda store, they're watching it like a hawk. So he's watching that every day. But I'm doing daily one-on-ones with these guys on what they sold, what they upsold, you know, and then I'm checking the cars with them as I walk by. I'm like, hey, did you get this axle seal? Did you get this tire? You know, sometimes I'll also kind of test them. I'll unplug a light bulb, or take a wiper arm off,
Oh, you weasel.
you know, and I go and I check on this car and I'll be like, hey, how are the brakes on how are the brake lights on this one? They're fine. I'm like, are you sure? And then that's when their eyes pop open and they're like, I'll double check it. And then all of a sudden, oh, one of the bulbs is out. I'm like, are you sure the bulb's out? And then they'll really check into it. Then they know I'm checking them, you know, with that. But that's a daily thing with them. And then every Saturday morning, every other Saturday, I dispatch at the Chevy store. So every Saturday morning, I have a powwow with all the loop techs because it's mainly a loop tech day. And then we have 2 journeymen work that take on any work they upsell. So I tell them like every Saturday morning that we work together that I got to make sure they do good inspections. I don't care about fast, I care about right, you know. And then that's the mentality we have.
I love the fact that you're so in touch with them and and following up on them. Have you had say you get somebody that graduates your training program early, um, like the one gentleman you were talking about. What's that next step for him?
Well, the next step for him is, you know, he starts getting work and he's on his own. You know, and I try to do it once they reach that higher tier, we start giving them more work while they're hourly, right? So they don't add the stress of doing the job along with the stress of trying to book enough hours to get through the day because we don't do a guarantee with any technicians. Um, I'll do a guarantee when someone first starts if they're book time for the first week, but then after that they're on their own because, you know, 9 times out of 10, you know, we have more work than we know what to do with. So if it's something they upsell, especially, we let them do that. You know, now there is a negative side. They could break something. You know, I had one of these apprentices sell oil cooler lines, and he damaged the thread on a bell housing for a trans. You know, it just comes with the territory. I have to
Right.
take the kids out, and my trans guy had to put in a new bell housing. you know.
But that's part of the vision that everybody buys into with the support and everything, you know.
Absolutely. And everybody's watching how I react to that, you know. So we look at it, we're like, man, you got to be more careful. He goes, yeah. I shake his hand. He goes, all right, let's get on to the next car. And now everybody sees like, man, he's gonna back us up. And you know, I get these guys pulling me aside one-on-one, telling me like, dude, he was really worried you were gonna terminate him because of this one mistake. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm asking him to do it. It's his first time, you know.
Should have whacked him.
Yeah, I should have.
Um, when I want to get back to the schools a little bit, especially the high schools. Is I've heard that some stores, and we didn't do this, but I've heard that some stores will donate scrapped engines, or other, maybe they got a car that they're in that they picked up for nothing, or it's an abandoned vehicle or something like that. And I've heard that some of these stores will actually donate to the shops and that sort of stuff, to the programs. Have you talked about that?
Talked and done. I mean, you talk to the shop teachers and you'll ask them what they need. I've had our tire vendors donate tire racks to each of these schools at no charge to us. Just because we buy so many tires at our GM store, they dropped off tire racks to each of these schools, so that way their tires wouldn't be just laying on a wall. Now they're organized up there and we look like heroes, and it didn't cost us anything. And not to mention, these schools, they need examples of failed parts and what they look like. So window motors, we save for them to show them what a bad window motor looks like, how it looks like when you test it out. Different worn out tires, brake pads, they're different ranges, and it seems like garbage to us, but to these teachers, it's a training tool that they got that they can give to these students. We've also donated, blown engines with, rings and stuff like that, the extended warranty cores that they don't come and pick up. We call them and, we'll drop them off to them. We've done that plenty of time. We also drop off shop supplies, gloves, brake cleaner boxes and things like that. And those I also get from the vendor. I'll talk to the vendor, be like, hey, I got a high school that needs some help. Can you don't drop them off a couple boxes of this or that? And they're like, sure. They know that it helps their business too, with the more technicians we have.
Hey, Zach Perkle, when you get a chance, I want to talk to you. If you can, I'd like you to talk about that vehicle you donated. And everybody, please pay attention to the chat, where Dan Shine is shamelessly plugging automotive news, which is fantastic. We love it. We love the program. So please click on that. Zach, talk to us about the car you donated. How'd that work out? And where, give us the information on that, please.
Yeah, so I'm on the ASC advisory board for St. Charles East High School. So I'm always going to their shop and checking in with them. I've pulled a couple technicians out of their program, and they needed a car with some technology in it, a little more technology. So I got with my GM and we found something on the wholesale line that we were willing to let go of and got with the owners. I think we ended up donating it like a 2010 Accord. So it wasn't as new as I think I would have liked it to be for them, but you got to justify it to the people who are writing it off and all that. So they decided on like a 2010 Accord that we had in the wholesale line, and now that's one of their cars that they work on and test on at the school.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Now, you're on the board for the high school. How'd you get involved in that?
Honestly, the school board reached out to a bunch of people we have like a bunch of dealers on North
Right.
Avenue there, right by there, and they emailed everybody and said that this is when our next board meeting is. Here's an invite, and I just started going and got involved with the teacher, and he retired. Now there's a new instructor who actually I know through our Hunter rep. So we're looking at donating our old alignment system from our old store to them because they don't have an alignment rack, and
That's great.
some tire machines and stuff. So I promise you it's gonna end up being the McGrath Automotive Group auto shop at St. Charles High School.
Yeah, well, and Godspeed for it, because why not? What a farm system, and you're doing a community service by helping these young people out to figure out. I mean, and hey, maybe some of them don't want to do this, right? Maybe they're out. They're like, ah, man, I don't want to do this. This is what it is. But you're helping them make a decision one way or the other, and it's giving back to the community. And how good is, how good is that? I'm reading the book, Find Your Why, whatever the fuck it is. I'm reading this book, and they talk about, why is your company in business? And, for you, that being part of the community, especially that big store of yours on North Avenue there. I mean, to be part of the community, there's a reason you're doing $1 million plus a month, right? And that just feeds in there. I mean, great job. Great job. Appreciate it. Again, I want to hear from technicians. You guys aren't going to get off the hook here. I am, because it's ridiculous. You got to talk. Steve Kill, go. I'm just going to make you do it.
So like back when I was in high school, this wasn't a thing. This was not pushed. This wasn't favorited. Going to college, getting a degree, 4 years, bachelor's, that
Right.
was the thing. My driving force was my teacher in high school. Old school guy, had been doing it probably since, dinosaurs roamed the earth. He didn't want me to do it because he was afraid.
By the way, that was probably late 90s in Steve's world.
Yeah. He pushed me to be passionate about it, but at the same time, I don't think he wanted to see me get into the career either. So mine got driven more by proving everybody wrong. We've had the high school kids come in, and I've told them the same thing. I said, you guys are in a lot better position if you want to do this, because it's actually supported now. It's not so much frowned upon. It's encouraged. And the kids that we've gotten through the high school program, they put effort in when they see effort coming from above. If you don't have the effort coming from, the management, foremans, the head techs, those kids feed off of that, and they can tell. Our shop doesn't really run like a structured apprentice program, but it's pretty heavily implied that if you're an express or something like that and you ain't got nothing going on, go over and hang around one of the other guys, have them help you. And you got kids that are better at it than others. We got one kid, he walks around, he'll go, "Oh, do you guys need help? You need me to take out your rotors? You want me to empty your oil bin?" It's like, "Oh yeah, thanks, dude. Appreciate that."
Yeah.
A big thing about that, which is something that I try to instill in the kids, is that there's a level of respect that you have to figure out how to earn. You're not just going to get it. And, if somebody like me, if I'm buried in work and I got a car and I'm like, "Hey, can you go run this to the wash for me?" "Oh yeah, sure. Okay, cool. No problem." "Hey, can you come do this for me?" "Yeah, sure. No problem." Said, if you stop for 2 seconds what you're doing and come help us, I said, we're flat rate. We get paid by whatever we touch, not by the hour. If you get stuck on something, you're losing your ass on a car. I'm not gonna drop what I'm doing to run over there and give you the answer, but I'm gonna be a lot more inclined to stop what I'm doing and stop my work to go over there and help you figure out what you're doing, if you're going to give me that same level of respect back. And for the way our shop runs, to me, that's more beneficial long term, because you're instilling that respect mentality in them from the beginning.
Yeah, and when we do the tours with the high school students, unfortunately Steve's always he's on stage, and as is another gentleman I have there as well, that he was a product of that program. And this is the kid that when I was doing a review with this young man, I gave him a nice raise. And I said, "Now, we keep these things confidential and everything." He's like, "Oh, I understand, but can I tell somebody?" I said, who He goes, can I tell my mom? I mean, yeah, you can tell your mom. I mean, go be proud, you know? I mean, he was so happy. He was so proud because somebody took some time and invested in him. And I'm really proud of that young man as well. Zach, go ahead. Steve, thanks so much, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Steve brought up a good point that resonated with me, that the first ASC advisory board meeting I went to at St. Charles East involved parents who had questions, and their kids had interest in the auto program, but they didn't know if they should do it or they should be doing volunteer work and AP physics to put on their college resume to get into some bullshit four-year college. And I'll step on my soapbox every time in front of parents and tell them their four-year college is not for everybody. In fact, it's probably a bad decision in today's day and age to go and incur all that debt when you could have someone who's interested in a trade, someone who's good at it. That trade's not going away. And honestly, if someone doesn't want to be a tech after they've been doing it for a while, they can morph into HVAC tech, plumber, whatever,
For
and
sure.
make a bunch of money too. And come out of, you don't even need to go to, I went to UTI. It's expensive. It was 1 year in and out, no other classes. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to get the hell done with it. I paid a little extra to do it. You could go to ECC, like Roger's talking about, getting some guys from ECC. You got to take some gen eds and stuff. It's a 2-year program, but you come out with minimal debt. I convinced the mom my first meeting that it's not, you don't look down on your kids if they want to go to a 2-year or a trade school. It's not like they've failed as parents if they didn't go to a 4-year college and incur 200,000 in debt. Like it's okay. We make good money in this industry, and it's not to be frowned upon, because there is a little bit of a, especially St. Charles is kind of an affluent area, and parents can tend to look down on people who are in trades, carpenters, whatever, instead of going to 4-year college to be a doctor or lawyer or whatever.
Until they
So
need it.
But once they found out how
until
much,
they need it.
once they found out that, I explained at the time I was running a store that was doing, I don't know, over 10 million in sales a year, managing 150 people that worked directly for me. I never went to college, and I explained that to them, and how much money I made before as a technician and how much your earning potential could be if you want to progress and do something else. There's multiple avenues you could go just in the dealer world. And I never went to 4-year college, and I'm doing just fine. So
What a great point. Zach, awesome point about there is a stigma, right?
yeah,
And there's this, we have to work harder to erase that stigma. And we got to let people know it's okay to be in the car business. It's okay to sell cars. It's okay to fix cars. It's okay to sell No, okay. It's okay to be in the car business. We have to work hard. And Robert just said in there, he's got a family day where he tells people and he talks to their parents and he says, hey, it's okay. It's all right. We want you to do it. This is an honorable profession. We do a great service for the community. You should be doing this. You should be proud of your children for wanting to get in and being, they're upstanding citizens.
Yeah, Joe, I want to add something to what
Please.
Zach said real quick, and that is that unless the numbers have changed over the last few years, 92% of people that come out with college degrees, heavily debt laden, they don't even work in the field they got the degree in.
I've got one in my house right now. Got one in my house right now. 4-year degree, not interested in doing what he went to school for. Now, let me tell you.
Recent study, Joe, just to jump in and piggyback off both of them.
Yeah.
Study came out earlier in the week. 78% of people with a college or university degree are going to be disadvantaged or adversely affected by AI by 2028. So if you have or are getting a college or university degree, you are going to be adversely or negatively impacted by 2028, which means it's not only going to be even worse for those who have a degree, like Russell just mentioned, where they're not even working in their field. There won't be the field. It won't exist, or it's going to become a minimum wage style employment. You will never, ever get AI to fix a car. You might be able to get it to diagnose one or help you diagnose one, but you still need hands. and to go off of
Well, it looks like we lost Joshua Taylor, but here on the flip side, there's nothing wrong with the 4-year education. I get it. I understand it. And I've got another kid in the house who's going to be a doctor. God bless her. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with being in the trades and working with your hands. To Joshua's point, Ray Hernandez, let's hear from you, and then we'll hear from Marshall.
Joe, even just the way you said it, it's okay to be in the car business. It sounds like the beginning of a sport group, doesn't it? It's okay. It's all right.
My name's Joe Chambers, and I'm in the car business.
It's okay. Don't worry. We all make mistakes. But I was going to ask the other technicians on the group about what techs want, what techs are looking for. But the one that struck me that Roger said is being held accountable. So I'd love to hear if like Mike Ramirez or Steve Kill or Marshall or Josh talk about how important being held accountable is.
Well, let's jump to Mike Ramirez real quick, if you could help us with that, Mike, and then we'll get to Marshall and then Bob, okay?
Yeah, I think that's super important. I heard someone say it's more about building a culture and holding people accountable. Like, what kind of work are these people producing, right? Because it's very hard to keep that good sense of pride in the work that you're doing, because it very easily shifts to like a race downhill to do like as little as possible to beat the guy next to you. So if you have high standards all the way across the board, it's easy to build a championship team with that kind of culture.
Okay. So how is the whole now, do you like to be held, not you, I mean, I know you're in a different role these days, but do technicians like to be held accountable?
I think it's tough. I think it's tough at first, but that's what you're training them to do. That's a part of being a professional technician. You realize that when someone is holding you accountable, they're making you better. So obviously there's a knee-jerk reaction there when you try to hold someone accountable, but when they realize that the image that they're upholding with the team is really important, I think they shift that attitude really quick. And it's not really that you're reprimanding someone, it's that these journeymen are setting an example. And when they realize that's their real function there, you can actually mold them too. Because let's be honest, being a technician is hard on your body. So you're helping them build their professional appearance again. So you have to be able to take these kind of constructive criticism meetings with these technicians and use it to get better, and not only to get better yourself, but to help make the technicians around you better.
I think as well, the accountability that most of us crave, actually, I think deep down we do. I think you need to explain that accountability and what it means and why you hold people accountable to new hires, especially young people. I think they need to understand that, especially some young people who've never really been held accountable for anything.
That's a fact.
They need to know why you're doing it. This is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to make you better. I'm doing this to help you grow. And I'm not doing it because because I think you're doing a shitty job or anything like that. I'm doing it to help you grow.
If I could add one thing, it also
Please.
creates a culture of fairness when everybody's accountable, right? Especially like the lube techs, the accountability part puts everybody on an even playing field, right? So now it's not about one guy's doing the minimum and then the other guy's carrying the shop. This is how we do it. If you're not following this accountability process, then you're not going to be here a while, and it's not going to be a surprise to anybody when someone gets written up, reprimanded, terminated, because everybody knows what the goal is.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you very much for that, Michael. I appreciate it. Marshall, let's hear from you.
I think Mike's pretty
Marshall,
dead on
what's
there.
going on with that hair today, brother? That is some tall ass hair, dude.
Brother, I know I got to get a haircut
I
today.
love it, man. Keep it going, Elvis.
I think Mike's pretty dead on, because when you get up there as a technician and you're a journeyman level and you've been doing this, 15 plus years, I think the deal is that pretty much all day long, all the junior techs around you, and when you get to the point where most of the technicians around you are junior to you, they are all looking to see how you react, and especially to management and the leadership of the management. So you have to really be careful with how you react to what the management team is trying to do. So like, you have to buy into everything that the management team is trying to put out on the floor, whatever directives those are, or whatever they may be. Because if it's a new process and you don't buy into it, all the other technicians below you don't buy into it. And so you really do have to set a good example for the other technicians. And I feel like that really is your role, off the rip. That's pretty much where you're at. You really have to pay attention to how you react to all of those things. And that is a pretty important situation. As far as like, I was thinking a lot about the accountability part, and that's pretty much where you're at when you're at that journeyman level, because I don't know, it's tough because of the market. If I was thinking about how sometimes we feel like our management team is busting your balls, or they come in and they're like, hey, and it's something frivolous and they want to write you up over something what you feel is frivolous. And it's real easy to just make one phone call and have another job. And so it's really hard to like not think about that, at a journeyman level, especially if you're good at what you do. I think you got to go back to that saying, you got to dance with who brought you. So sometimes I run into that where I'm upset with my management team, and they do a pretty good job, but and that I always lean on that saying, I got to take a minute, let it stew. And then, you got to lean on that dance with who brought you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You do, but I think that accountability, if you do it right, to like Roger does, and you start it from the get-go, and it's part of that culture. If you're doing accountability right, you're not writing somebody up for some bullshit, right? You're just not. You're not doing anything stupid like that.
Yeah. If I
So
could add to what Marshall was saying,
yeah,
nothing will break down morale and culture in a dealership faster than tolerating someone, that's not following the rules. Then everyone else sees that, and now all the walls.
okay. All right, Marshall, thank you so much. Bob Charbonneau, you have the last word, then I'm going to kill the recording.
All right. Well, one of the things I wanted to say when it comes to working with schools, you got to be consistent, and you have to think about what are you going to help them with. And you got to be, you can't just do it like one time, stop in and visit them. You got to kind of target who's got the best programs around that you can help. And I've been working with schools since 1974 in Phoenix, Arizona, when I had to open a brand new Sears store and I had no technicians, and I had to find people to work there, but also I think when you have your stories of the guys that were technicians and worked their way up, build a good story that people like. So you're inspiring when you talk to people. And then pretty soon you're going to find everybody wants you to go talk to other students at UTI. You'll be invited to talk to, I don't know how many times I was at UTI and everybody else is there too, but I got invited to have every student in that school, 300 people in the auditorium talking about dealerships, because if you think about why would you go to work at a dealership in an independent? The independent's going to offer you more money right at first. Well, the dealership, you don't really know that where you're going and what you're going to do. You got 40 or 50 different jobs that you could do in a dealership to grow and get better. But when your story's good, I was an ASE certified technician in 1969, the second testing of ASE certified, and I was making $2.50 an hour. So if your story's good and you've moved up and grown and honor the profession that you're in, you're gonna get a lot of people wanting you to help them, and that's the people that you get your guys from. That's it.
Thanks a lot, Bob. And I'm hoping that you're making a little bit more than the $2 an hour now. Okay. But no, thank you everybody for the show. Roger, awesome job, man.
Thank you.
Great. Kudos to you for what you do for your techs. Kudos to you for what you do for the community. That's why you're in the position you are. I greatly appreciate it. I am going to kill the recording now. Anybody that wants to hang out for about another 5 minutes, go ahead. If not, thank you so much. We had a record, 46 people at the high point today. Keep on supporting Service Drive Live. I thoroughly thank you for it, and I need your support.